Imagine finding a digital ghost story, not in a dusty book, but buried deep within a city's traffic control network. That's exactly what happened during a routine data migration. It all started with a single, ordinary-looking file. An export generated by the municipal traffic system at exactly 3:17 in the morning. The file looked completely normal. It had timestamped vehicle counts, traffic light cycle durations, and sensor health indicators. It was the kind of boring, procedural data that gets deleted after 30 days. The system that created it was tried and true, having monitored a small urban intersection for years. This particular intersection was mainly used by delivery trucks and night buses. There were no cameras, no microphones, just simple pressure sensors and induction loops buried under the asphalt to detect cars. The file was labeled correctly, its digital signature was perfect, and the formatting was standard. So, what was the problem? What made this file so special? The intersection it was describing didn't exist. Not yet. Anyway, according to city zoning records, construction on that specific crossing wasn't approved until months. Asterisk after asterisk. This data was generated at the exact time of the file export. The street grid just ended. The location was an empty lot, full of dirt and weeds. There was no asphalt, no traffic lights, no buried sensors. And yet, the data showed activity. It showed that at 3:18 a.m., a vehicle stopped at a phantom red light. Then, at 3:18 and 42 seconds, it proceeded through the non-existent intersection. A minute later, another vehicle followed. The system recorded these ghost events without a single error flag. The signal timing in the data even adjusted dynamically, as if it were responding to a real-time traffic demand that simply wasn't there. The entire log showed no anomalies, no alerts, no warnings. It was a perfect record of an impossible event. Now, you might be thinking this was just a simulation file, right? Or maybe a test run that got mislabeled, but it wasn't. The file was digitally signed with the live system's highly secure encryption key, proving it was an authentic report from the active network. When this strange record was finally discovered, the first assumption was simple human error, a mislabeled file. So, an engineer was assigned to check the geographic coordinates embedded within the file's metadata. The result sent a chill down their spine. The coordinates were a perfect match for the future location of the intersection, accurate down to the meter. At the time the data was generated, that physical space contained nothing but dirt and temporary construction fencing. The system should not have been able to observe anything happening there. There was nothing to observe. Digging deeper, the engineer found that the file wasn't alone. It was part of a continuous sequence of nightly exports, spanning a full 11 days, every single night, between 3 and 4 in the morning. The system had been diligently recording the light cycles and vehicle flow at this same phantom intersection. The traffic volume was low, but it was consistent. The average speed of these ghost vehicles stayed within the expected limits. There were no collisions, no sudden stops, just a smooth, predictable flow of traffic that didn't exist. The system was treating this non-existent intersection as just another functioning node in the city's network. During this 11-day period, all the adjacent, real intersections showed perfectly normal data. There were no time gaps, no synchronization errors, nothing to suggest a system-wide glitch. It was just this one specific location, this one ghost intersection, that was being treated as reality by the network. An internal audit was immediately requested. The auditors confirmed everything the engineer had found. The file headers were authentic. The timestamps aligned perfectly with the server logs. There was absolutely no evidence of manual insertion or tampering. No developer had accessed the database during those early morning hours. The data had been generated organically by the system itself. Completely stumped, the city officials reached out to the vendor who designed the traffic control software. They presented the evidence and asked the obvious question: how could their system generate highly detailed, accurate data for infrastructure that did not physically exist? The vendor's response was as chilling as it was brief. They sent back a single line: the network cannot register events without physical input. And that was it. No further explanation was ever provided. 3 months passed. The mystery remained unsolved, filed away as an inexplicable anomaly. Then, construction on the intersection began, right on schedule, are the exact coordinates from the ghost data. When the first set of sensors and induction loops were installed under the fresh asphalt, the technicians on site noticed something incredibly strange. Normally, new hardware needs to be registered and configured. It's a process called but when they connected these new sensors, the system didn't register them as new devices at all. It recognized them instantly. Their unique hardware IDs already existed in the database. No setup was required. The technicians were baffled. It was as if, from the system's perspective, these sensors hadn't just been installed. They had been active and reporting data for months. So what was happening in that empty lot at 3 in the morning? Was it a glimpse into the future? A bleed-through from a parallel dimension? Or was the city's traffic network somehow dreaming, creating a reality it knew was coming? We may never know. But somewhere in a forgotten server, the data still exists, a perfect, logical record of something that was completely impossible. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy diving into these kinds of strange and unexplained digital mysteries, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you wouldn't miss our next exploration. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. See you in the next one. When a new traffic intersection goes online, it's usually a pretty mundane event. The lights turn green, then red. Cars move through. The city's central traffic system adds it to the network, and that's that. But this one was different. Once it became operational, its behavior was indistinguishable from any other intersection in the city. Traffic flowed. Normally, light timings adjusted smoothly to ebbs and flows of daily commuters. The system never flagged it as problematic. In fact, it seemed to work perfectly from the moment it was switched on. But then, the analysts started noticing things. Strange things. When they compared the live data from the new intersection with the historical records stored on the server, patterns began to align in ways that didn't make any sense. They were looking at data logs from before the intersection was even built. The concrete hadn't even been poured yet, and yet, the data was there. Vehicle counts from the first week of operation were almost identical to the averages from these pre-construction logs. Peak traffic minutes, down to the second, occurred at nearly identical times. It got weirder, even minor. Seemingly random fluctuations repeated themselves. They found a record in the old data, one night, showing a vehicle classified simply as heavy transport passing through at 3:21 in the morning. They decided to temporarily remove the intersection's node from the city's adaptive timing algorithm. They should have just made that one intersection a little less efficient, right? Wrong. Within hours, chaos started to ripple outwards. Congestion spiked in all the surrounding intersections. They perform better than any of the traditional, expensive traffic modeling simulations. So, they kept using them. Eventually, the fact that this data came from a time before the intersection was even built was just forgotten. It was referenced in reports without comment, without a single raised eyebrow. New staff joining the department just assumed it was part of some earlier, very thorough planning phase. The system continued its nightly exports, adding more data to the impossible archive years. But the intersection became an unassuming, yet crucial, part of the city's infrastructure. It was a model of efficiency. Then, a new urban planning proposal came up. The idea was to simplify the road network in that area, which meant removing the intersection entirely. The proposal was fed into the city's simulation software for analysis. The prediction that came back was stark. Widespread, gridlocking disruption, a complete traffic meltdown. The recommendation was, of course, rejected. The intersection remained. It was now officially considered one of the most stable, most vital points in the entire network. And this is where the story should end. A quirky, unexplained glitch in the city's mainframe. A ghost in the machine that nobody could explain, so they just learned to live with it. But if you think about it, if the system recorded traffic there before anything was ever built, it raises a much bigger, much more unsettling question. What if the intersection was never really added to the system at all? What if it was the other way around? What if the data came first? A perfect, detailed blueprint of movement and flow. And what if our entire city, the concrete, the asphalt, the traffic lights? What if it was all just built to match the data?